Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ Dhammāṃ Saṅghāṃ Namasāmi. Okay. So today, what's it, the second day? Today's the first? Second, okay. Today's the first. That's right. That's right, Happy New Year. So yes, yesterday we talked about the obstacles to a peaceful meditation, a peaceful mind, which is desire, wanting. Talk about the walls of wanting, how that comes up, and how that disturbs the mind. But I talked briefly about it yesterday. Is that desire is the main kind of cause that obviously disturbs the mind to keep it from the present moment. Wanting to get something or wanting to get rid of something, and that's the most common obstacle to a peaceful mind. But there are the other more subtle and different manifestation of wanting or a sense of self is the other of the other four hindrances. And as most of you probably may already know, especially if you read Ajahn Theravadin's book on the 5 hindrances. So there is desire, ill will, doubt, restlessness, and sloth and torpor. So those are the 5 forces in the mind that will disturb your meditation from time to time. And unless you're fully enlightened, expect to have at least one of those in the mind when you meditate. Sometimes it feels like you have all 5 of them attacking you at once. Yeah. But now that you know roughly what they are, well, you know more after the Dhamma talk, then you don't have to, like I said, it takes away this sense of guilt or worry. At least you have an idea, oh yeah, that's what's happening. That's why the mind is not peaceful. So, like I said, the good thing is that, yeah, it isn't your fault. It's just having a body, having a mind, being unenlightened. That's what you have to deal with. The good thing is there are antidotes. There are things you can do to neutralize them as well. And like I said, the thing that you can neutralize them is to use the 5 spiritual faculties. The things that neutralize the 5 hindrances are the 5 spiritual faculties that the Buddha talked about. And they start out, the 5 spiritual faculties are faith, energy, mindfulness, samadhi, stillness, and wisdom. Those are the 5 things that you can use to counteract, or 5 things you can build up in your mind that will help establish, makes the mind more still, and hence easier to see things clearly. As long as you have the 5 hindrances that move the mind, makes things less clear. But if you develop the 5 spiritual faculties, that will help to stabilize the mind, allowing you to see more clearly, not allowing you, but just allowing the mind to let go of things easier. Yeah. And to explain more, faith, the term saddha. Sometimes faith is kind of associated with kind of blind faith, the religious faith. Just do it because it's in the book. Do it because your teacher tell you to, or do it because somebody else says it. But no, the faith in the Pali word is saddha, and the translation is closer is confidence. Yeah. So the saddha is more like confidence in the teaching of the Buddha. Confidence that the Buddha was fully enlightened, that he knew what he was doing, and confidence that what he taught, if you follow it, will bring results to your practice. So it's more like that. Faith is more like, someone explained to me earlier on, faith is like a map that you look at. You look at this map, and let's say the map of the monastery, right? You look at it, and it shows you where the sala is, shows you're in the office and kitchen complex, and you follow this road, it curves around, you see the dorm, you walk a bit further, and you see the sala. You look at the map, and that's what it says, and then you're walking, walk. You look to the left, oh yeah, where says the dorm? That's where the dorm is. So you're like, oh, okay, this map is pretty good. And then you walk a bit further, and you see the sala, just where the map says it is. Like, okay, yeah, the map is pretty good, pretty accurate. And you're having kind of a bit of confidence how accurate it is. But then, past the sala up there, it says there is this amazing, beautiful stupa, completely made of gold. You're like, 1,000 meters tall, completely gold. And you're like, I don't know about this. but up to that point, up to the sala point, the map is incredibly accurate. It says, the dorm has 4 rooms. You go there, look, yep, 4 rooms. Just where it is, where the toilet is. So the map is very, very accurate up to the point. But there it's like, well, I've never heard of a 1,000-meter tall stupa, let alone a solid gold and emerald and diamonds. I'm like, don't know. But you have some confidence that it might be true because of the fact that it's been very true in terms of everything else in your field of experience so far, that the Dharma is there, the Sala is there. And it's the same with the Buddhist teaching, that you don't know about this rebirth stuff, you don't know about, whether, you can calm the mind down, you don't know about the jhana stuff. But as you put into practice the Buddhist teaching of living a simple life, being harmless, keeping the 5 precepts, you feel better. You have an increased sense of well-being. The mind is more still, more gentle, more kind you are. You feel that your life is growing in wholesome qualities, that you don't get so angry anymore. You sleep easier. You don't feel so anxious as you practice meditation. It's not a cure for everything, but you are feeling a sense of well-being is increasing. The mind is beginning more still. You're getting a feel for your emotional states. You're getting a feel for what is, why you do the way things are. So then, as you continue to practice, put into practice the teaching of the Buddha, you are gaining some results. So that's why your confidence increases. You know these teachings work for yourself. And that's why, when we chant the homage to the Dhamma, the teaching of the Buddha, is always, something to be seen for oneself. Something to look inwards. Something to be known by the wise. It's something that each and every one of us have to put into action and see for ourselves. And that's why faith in the Buddha, faith in the Dhamma, faith in the Sangha only becomes unshakable when you are enlightened. Until then, it's a working hypothesis. You don't know for sure, whatever you're doing, this practice is going to head in the right direction. But you get a feeling it is, because you're feeling better, right? And that's what faith is about. Faith is first, there's many types of faith as well. And first is faith is obviously in the Buddha, that he was fully enlightened, that what he taught will also bring you the same results. That's one thing. So facing the teacher, facing the teaching. But lastly, and sometimes some people get stuck on this, is faith in yourself. And we grow up in a Western society sometimes, through a lot of comparison with others. We have issues with self-esteem that we're thinking, comparing ourselves to others all the time, that we talked about yesterday. So we're sitting here, working, trying to meditate, and the mind's all over the place. So you're thinking to yourself, yeah, I'm sure I don't have any doubt that the Buddha is fully enlightened. Don't doubt the teachings for it. But you know what? I'm sure all these people are all enlightened already. It's just me and my terrible mind. I'm just too distracted, too far gone, too much drugs in my youth. That's done it. I can never be enlightened this lifetime. It's too late for me. But I can still just make good karma. But actually, it's not only something that happens in Western society as much, actually. Sometimes it happens in the traditional Buddhists too. That's what you see. Traditional Buddhists, they come and they offer dana to the monks and nuns. And then some of them don't practice meditation so much because they're thinking, no. I'm a lay person. I can only offer to support the monastery, but I don't have what it takes to become enlightened this lifetime. And that's also a form of self-doubt that creeps into the practice from time to time. And that's why to overcome that though, is you do have to put into practice the teaching of the Buddha. Because the only way to overcome that doubt is to know for yourself the fruits of the practice. And you don't have to wait until you're fully enlightened to have faith. There are results along the way. You can feel it for yourself when you keep the 5 precepts. You just feel, better about yourself. Not harming other beings, not drinking intoxicants, and not committing sexual misconduct. Those things, are obviously brings a sense of well-being to yourself and others around you. People can trust you. You don't feel like people are going to say things behind your back. They might say things, but you know for yourself that you haven't done anything wrong. So there's a self-confidence that you have, and a sense of kind of harmlessness. But with harmlessness, it comes a sense of kind of almost invincibility, because you are giving harmlessness out. So safety comes to you. You're not afraid of being hurt by animals. You can walk in the forest. You're not afraid that the snake's going to bite you because you have all this bad karma. So when you put into the practice, the teaching of the Buddha, you see the results for yourself. And then so that's why faith increases. And it increases over time. And that's something that might take time. But at least, faith in Buddhism is a working hypothesis. The Buddha says, do this, and you'll get that. You're like, well, see what happens. So like I said, you practice your meditation, you practice your harmlessness, being restrained, and question things. People in the world says, you'll be happy if you get what you want. Happy if you get a new car. Happy you go on a holiday. Well, part of the teaching is to really test, to really ask yourself, is it really happiness to get a new car? Is it really happiness to get, a raise? There's some happiness, but you look closely, that happiness is quite short-lived, and other anxieties and worry come into it. Is it really happiness to have a big house? Yeah, it might be fun to have first week. Take all your friends about it, bring all your friends come, and then you gotta mop it, you gotta clean it, and then the mortgage comes, you're like, oh, it's not so great after all. Yeah, so there's always a balance, always a trade-up to these things that the world tells you is so wonderful. Yeah, so understanding that, you're more careful. You always test now. And that's why I always ask people, whatever it is you want, whatever it is that you're doing, keep questioning, is this true happiness? Is this going to bring me an increased sense of well-being or not? Is it heading towards more simplicity or heading away from that? Yeah. So know for yourself what brings you true happiness, not just a fleeting sort of happiness. When you some things are more obvious. When you get drunk or drink alcohol, is it true happiness or is it just a little bit to cover up some suffering? When you don't keep the precepts. So those are very clear why it will bring stress and suffering to yourself and others around you. So when you put into, so faith starts to increase when you see the fruits of the practice. And with faith comes energy, virya, energy to put into, to even practice, to put in more, to practice harder, to focus the mind, encourage you to walk the path the Buddha laid down. So energy, but also it's this energy into knowing, like an interest in how the mind works. It's interest in training the mind. It's just not hyper, the restless energy of doing things. It's the energy into the knowing. That's the difference. Yeah. You're just kind of aware, you're keen, you're interested. You want to understand how things work in yourself. You want to look inwards. What things I do that bring suffering to myself and others, or what things I do or think about that brings a sense of well-being to myself and others. You start to see clearly the cause and effect at work in the world around you, in your mental thought. So energy arises. And sometimes energy you have to bring it up. Just when the alarm clock rings at 4:30 in the morning, you're like, I'm a bit tired. But sometimes you're like, okay, I'm just going to get out of bed. And you get out of bed and wash your face, you move up. And you'll find out, it's never easy to get up. But once you get up, it starts going. It's the same with energy in the mind. You just have to rouse energy. And once you rouse it, it's like a fire. Once you spark it, it starts rolling on its own. But it does take initial kind of thing. And when you have a lot of faith, it's easier to jump out of bed. It's like, I'm so excited. I'm excited to be here. Have a few days, to practice meditation, to be peaceful, to be calm. It's great. Or, kind of make use of it. You can lie in bed any time, right? Go home and lie in bed. But now I have the time to get up, just to be in the sala, listen to the birds waking up, sun coming up. Wow, it's a wonderful opportunity to make use of. So with faith, energy arises naturally. It's not the energy of a self, not the energy of a willpower trying to push things along, but energy of like, I'm doing this out of my inspiration from the Buddha. I'm doing this out of gratitude for all the teachers that come and offer the teachings. So the energy around this is pure energy, a wholesome energy of wanting to practice. Energy of faith, of being inspired. Not the energy of wanting to get things, not the energy of a self. I am the great meditator, so that's fine. I want to be the first one, so everybody knows what a great practitioner I am. I'm going to be the first in the sala tomorrow morning. And then see who else comes after me. Oh yeah, that one comes, this one comes. No, it's a faith that's just happy to be here. And what everybody does, it doesn't matter. You're just happy to be practicing the Buddha's path. Because also you reflect, it is quite a rare thing in this world. The world moves in the opposite direction. It moves towards complexity, moves towards short-term happiness. It moves towards selfishness. And while they tell you it brings happiness, it doesn't. Focusing on yourself brings more anxieties and worries, brings, funny enough, a sense of alienation. Because you're constantly thinking about, number one here, you're not thinking about anybody else. And after a while, it gets pretty tiring. It never brings the type of happiness or contentment that you want. It's actually letting go of the sense of self. Looking out for others brings a type of purpose to yourself, bring an increased sense of joy that's not tied to sense pleasure. It lasts longer. So with faith comes energy, because inspiration is easy. And then with energy, like I said, energy is more into the knowing, not so much doing, but mostly the knowing. You're interested, you're keen, you're excited about the path. You're excited about the training of the mind. You're excited just to be chanting the Buddha's teaching. So with energy comes mindfulness, sati. The mind is bright, it's clear, it's not distracted. So that's where mindfulness comes from. So sometimes that's why we, in here, in Ajahn Chapter, we don't emphasize, a type of technique. Mindfulness is something that rises from faith and inspiration. It's not from willpower. It's not, how much you force your mind onto the breath. It's not much how you force your mind onto a meditation object. That why you're mindful. It's more of a natural process of, having faith, and the energy rises, and the mind is just clear and bright. But it's still, But the more mindful you are, you're not, it's just present. That's what you could, it's like present moment awareness. You're just there. You're here. You're open. Mind is spacious. So mindfulness arises from that type of energy. It's energy of stillness, energy of knowing, not energy of doing. So you're mindful, you're aware of your body and your mind, what's happening. Your mind, when you put it on the breath, it's just with this breath. It's not veering off anywhere else. It's not going back to the past, reaching to the future. Not trying to control or manage things, but it's just being with things. Being with wherever you point it to, with the body, with the breathing process, the breath, or with the mantra. It's awareness. You're mindful, but you're still. And that sometimes is, unless you're meditating, it almost seems like paradoxical. How can you be energetic and be still? But when you're meditating, you know for yourself that is the case. That you're super aware, super energetic, but completely still. Like, oh, that's just interesting. Because in the world, when you're energetic, you're like running around doing things, right? Hyperactive. That's how energy, we only, equate energy with activity. But it's not in the world of meditation. Energy is just like, it goes inward. It's like stays inside. You're aware and you're sharp. But you're not drifting off. You're not leaking out. It's the thinking about the past, the future, remorse and guilt and worry and comparing opinions. That is what leaks out the energy. But when the mind is still, it holds all this energy and it builds up and becomes brighter, stronger, more sharp. But completely still. The more energy it is, the more still you become. That's kind of the paradoxical thing about meditation. When the mind becomes still, it becomes, it's lots and lots of energy building up. It's super still. And that's why with mindfulness, samadhi happens. Because energy is going through stilling the mind. It's not moving. It is when we are day-to-day life, the mind moves around because we have to think, we have to organize things, and it moves out. But it's also quite tiring. That's why at the end of the day, even though you may not be doing a lot of physical work, you feel really drained. The mind is just been been thinking, using a lot. Yeah. And you haven't done much. You just sit on the computer, tapping a few keys. You feel completely wiped out. It's like, what's going on there? Yeah. It's all up here. And we live in a society that is, with things, with jobs we have to do, with responsibility, we have to exercise a lot of the mental running around, calculating, managing, and that's tiring. And that's why meditation is just stilling the mind allows you to rest and builds up the energy. Yeah. So with samadhi, with the still mind, with the bright mind, with the clear mind that's not moving, you can see things clearly. That's where wisdom arises. Wisdom is clear seeing. It's like you have a picture right back to the wall, right? You can roughly see it, but it's not very clear. But if you were to shine super bright, powerful spotlight right into there, then you can see every single pore on the Buddha's face. You see, his little skin pigments, his pimples, his birthmark. You see, like you see it sharper, and you keep looking at it. You're looking at this one thing only. You're not moving away from that little birthmark. You're staying there. You keep looking deeper and deeper, and you see clearer. You see this different color, different things, and that's what samadhi is. That's where wisdom comes from, because you can hold your vision, hold your focus on one thing for a long time. And that's why and that's a lot of the problems with the human mind. We don't see things very clearly because we don't look at it very carefully for a long time. It just thinks about things and it drifts off to someone else, and it goes all over the place. So you just kind of have a vague idea of how things work, and then sometimes you find out, why do I keep making the same mistake? I get into this job, and then I get into this boss, and then we have a fight. I don't like it, so I quit and go to someone else. And it's the same thing again. Another boss who's bossing me around and bossing and bullying me, and I go there, and then we have certain habits. We keep doing these things over and over again because we don't see clearly. We keep making the same mistakes over and over again. But if you see clearly, the mind's not moving. And that's the thing, and that's where the non-self comes in. Not really you seeing it, it's just the mind. If the mind sees clearly, it will move towards wholesome state. It will let go of the suffering. It will see clearly. Suffering for most of us is like holding, like let's say anger, irritation, holding on to things that someone disappoints you, someone said something mean to you. You hear it, someone calls you stupid. You heard it, and you held on to it. So it's like holding on a red piece of coal. It's burning you. It's disturbing you. It's creating stress and suffering in you. Because you don't see clearly, you keep holding on to this hot piece of coal. But if you see clearly, this is way suffering. I'm creating suffering for myself, right here, right now. The other person, they've moved on with their life. They've gone, completely forgot what they said already. No one probably don't remember who I am. But here I am, still hold on to this, months later, so years later. The mind sees clearly that it's hold on to this red piece of hot coal. It will let go by itself. You don't have to say, oh, mind, let go, you're suffering. No, it sees suffering, letting go happens. And that's the magical thing of wisdom. When you see clearly, letting go happens. You don't have to force yourself, I've got this addictive habit of smoking. I really want to quit. Why can't I quit? And that's kind of a good simile. We all have some kind of addiction to something in our life. But we think it's pleasure, that's why we don't quit. Like, you tell all the smokers in the world, right? Smoking is bad for you. They know that. Why can't they quit? Because something else, they don't see clearly enough. That's why they keep doing that. Well, each and every one of us have certain things that we don't see clearly, but we still hold on to. Yeah. And when you see clearly, when the mind sees clearly, it will let go naturally. Yeah, it's a causal process. It is through not seeing that we hold on to things. It's not seeing clearly that we think this body is ours, that it's going to be with us forever. It's not seeing clearly that we attach to other people, that they're going to be with us forever, and then they change their mind, they leave us, we get very disappointed. We change our mind, we grow apart, and it causes a lot of stress and suffering to everybody around us. But we understand that, the body and the mind is constantly changing, and that none of us we control totally. Then we're ready. We're at peace when things do change. We learn to adapt with new situation, new reality. As the body ages, we're not suffering over it. We have a lot of people in the health, care business, right? taking care of old people, and you can see, they report to me, there's so much suffering in old people who don't practice, who don't have this idea that their body is theirs, and that when it starts to break down, obviously there's a lot of anxiety and worries, a tremendous amount of suffering when the body breaks down, and you keep thinking that it shouldn't break down. No. It's the holding on that creates so much more suffering than the actual physical symptoms of whatever it is that you're suffering from. Yeah. So it's at the heart of it is our grasping that creates the suffering in our life. So when wisdom sees that clearly, letting go happens. You don't have to force letting go. It just naturally happens. Yeah, so those are the 5 spiritual qualities, faculties that you can work on to help still the mind. It's also a great antidote to the 5 hindrances that are part of the mind from time to time. Yeah, so that is faith, energy, mindfulness, samadhi, stillness, concentration, and panya, wisdom. And like I said, wisdom, also a little thing from wisdom. Wisdom in the Buddhist sense is not like intelligence. It's not something to be, you have this great little one-liners that you say all the time and you really entertain people with your wisdom. No, it's not wisdom. That's just being clever or whatever. Wisdom in the Buddhist sense is not this idea of, writing great books, giving great talks. Not really wisdom either. Wisdom is the understanding suffering. Wisdom is to be able to relinquish suffering in yourself and others. Yeah. So wisdom is understanding the Four Noble Truths, understanding what is suffering and how to transcend that. That is specifically, and that when the Buddha talks about wisdom, that's the only kind of out of this cycle of birth and death and rebirth and death over and over again. Yeah. So it's wisdom to let go of suffering. You can have lots and lots of wisdom when you read lots of books, but if you're still suffering, then there's no wisdom. Yeah. And with wisdom, there's no problem. If you have a problem with somebody, there's a confusion, there's delusion somewhere. With wisdom, there's no problem. Because why there's no problem? Because you see, there's no you. There's no you, there's no problem. There is a you, that's what is a problem. There's a you, there's a him, there's a her, that's a problem. Oh, this person is really annoying me. They're doing this on purpose. I'm sure they'll come up to annoy me, to take my last piece of cake on purpose. I've been eyeing that all morning and they go and they take it from me. Or they say things to annoy me, to disturb me. No. We see clearly non-self, see clearly there's nothing inside here. Suffering disappears. Yeah. It is only through a sense of self, through grasping, through wanting, that suffering arises. When we see clearly, through clear seeing, that we are just a process. There's no real person inside, no real thing sitting. We're just a process of a conditioning, where we're born, who raised us, who our parents are, what countries we're born into, what things we watch, read, what things we hold on to, that we become this person, this thing, this process that's constantly changing. Our ideas are constantly changing, the body is constantly changing, right? So where's that, 12, 13-year-old person that you were once? It's not there anymore, but it was part of you somewhere. So that's constantly changing. And then you're going to be soon an 80-year-old person coming up soon. Some sooner than others. And that's also, where's that? That's also manifesting slowly. Process of the body generating. Something we can't control. So we understand that we're at one with it. We don't fight it. We adapt to the ever-changing reality of body and mind, of ourselves and the people around us. Yeah, people change their minds. That's okay. Not a problem. So that's wisdom, in Buddhist sense. Wisdom to understand suffering and wisdom to transcend that. And it's only at the end, it's the only wisdom that matters in the world. So I offer that for your reflection tonight. Except there are questions, sorry. 3 questions. I don't want to take too long. Why chant? Good question. We chant, actually, a lot of the chanting is in Pali, obviously, but we do an English translation as well. But those are actually the words of the Buddha. So those are his teachings. Also when we're chanting, it's also a way to still the mind through physical action. You focus on the word. A lot of time, for monks and nuns, it's encouraged to memorize the chanting, so then that you have the teaching of the Buddha with you at all times. Like we changed the 5 recollections. I'm of the nature to age. I haven't gone beyond aging. That's the truth about the body. I'm of the nature to be sick. I haven't gone beyond sickness. Yeah, those are all kind of focusing, pointing the mind towards reality, pointing the mind towards truths that we can, kind of focus on. Otherwise, the mind goes towards, fantasies, daydreaming, wishing, wanting things, or about irritation, anxieties, what are the things that we obsess about. So it's moving the mind away, away unwholesome things to more wholesome things, teachings about truth and reality. Yeah, I'm of the nature to die, haven't gone beyond dying. Yeah, I don't like to think about that, but obviously it's something that each and every one of us have to face one day. I always tell people, nobody gets out of here alive. Right? You might get out alive tonight, but not in 100 years' time. Right? There'll certainly be a complete new faces here, right? Myself included, obviously. Yeah. So it's something that we can focus on, be aware of, and hopefully be ready when it does happen to each and every one of us. So that's why we chant, just reminding us of the teaching of the Buddha. Also to rouse energy, especially in the morning, to bring up energy in the mind. Sometimes I fall asleep when listening to the Dhamma talk. Oh, hopefully not tonight. Even though I'm not super tired. When I try to meditate, I either fall asleep or my mind wanders ceaselessly. What should I do? Thank you. Yes, it's it is normal. The mind moves a lot, and in our daily life, either we're constantly, chattering away about different things in the mind, or trying to plan things, where we're going to go, where we're going to eat, and we live in the world that needs us, kind of forces us to choose a lot. So you go to the store, you're looking for a cereal, and there's 85 types of cereals to go through, and then you got to read all the ingredients, what's in there, make sure you have everything that's not allergic. Yeah, so it's just kind of, you have to use a lot of the thinking and discriminating mind, so that moves all the time, right? When it moves a lot, it gets tired. So it moves from one extreme to lots of movement. Then when it's tired, it moves towards sleep. Yeah, and then when you sleep, you get up, you start to, go get on the phone, talk to your friends, look at the internet, do more things. Yeah, so that's why with meditation or learning, you're trying to modulate the extreme movement and then sleep, extreme movement and sleep. Yeah, so the mind sometimes is, and we live in a very fast society, that sometimes, a lot of people are sleep deprived. They just don't get enough sleep sometimes. And we live in a world that is asking us to process a lot of information. And it has its uses, obviously, but at the end of the day, it still makes you tired mentally. Yeah. So we need to, with meditation, need to modulate some of that. Not to consume so much information, news stuff, not to use the internet unless you have to. So put a limit on it, at night or in the morning, not to reach for the first thing in the morning, and not to just kind of, when you're bored, you just open the phone and just look through things. Yeah, that might seem like, it's like something to pass the time, but it does make you more tired mentally over time. And so learn to kind of the moderation and those kind of using those digital devices to help calm the mind down. And as you begin to meditate more consistently, you'll see that it doesn't move so much towards hyperactivity and then sleep. That there is that you can begin to start focusing on the breathing process, the breath a bit more. And that's why I also encourage people to, if you're new to meditating and the mind moves a lot, to do more active meditation. So take up walking meditation or do something like yoga. That is like physical activity, but also brings you into the body. You're cycling, any physical activities, if you're aware of it, you're with the physical movement of the body, that is also a type of meditation. Knitting, focus on that, something repetitive, something simple, physical, and you're there with the physical sensation. That helps to slow down the mind as well. Yeah. So any of those activities will also prime you for kind of watching the breath later. Yeah. So just to kind of, you find it sitting with your eyes closed, difficult, and you fall asleep, open your eyes. Some people do that. Meditate with the eyes open, looking at a candle or something. Yeah. I also encourage people, you're new to meditation, you find it, that's difficult to focus. Have a guided meditation. There's lots of apps that people will walk you through the type of meditation, just to keep you a bit of interested. Yeah. As you get more proficient, after a while you find that it's just having just silence is easier. But initially, it's good to have something that's grounded you to the present moment. At least it's a voice just to kind of lead you to things. Yeah, otherwise the mind just veers off into its own kind of habitual thinking stuff. Yeah. So keep that in mind. What else? Yeah, so I've been recommending people to use the apps on the phone, because everybody's got a phone now anyway. So to use I think, what is it called? Calm and Headspace. That's right, Headspace. That's right. Yeah, Calm and Headspace is really good. It's got like 10 minutes guided meditation or 20 minutes or something, and the first 10 sessions is free, so you can do that over and over again, just to get you grounded and get you into the habit of meditating. And it's so accessible, and it gives a really good kind of clear teaching to settle the mind down. Yeah, so that's also very useful as well. Yeah, and there's, like I said, with these days, with lots of, with the pandemic, lots of Zoom teachings over the internet as well that you can access. Yeah. For anything, just kind of the regularity. Doing it every day is useful, helpful, just to get a stable practice. And I encourage people over and over again, Like going to the gym, you have to go do it every single day, mostly, 5 or 6 times a week. Just a few minutes a day. You build up the mind. Yeah. So it's not something that, I'll wait till, once every 3 months I go to a retreat. That's helpful, but it's the day-to-day thing that will bring a sense of stability and strength to the mind. Stability. And once you see that, I'm much more clear, much more energetic, I'm much more calm, I'm more steady, my mood doesn't go up and down so much, then you'll start to practice regularly on your own when you see the benefits of the practice. But sometimes it takes a little bit while to see. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? And then there's another question, more theoretical. Can you explain dependent origination? It's a bit technical, but it refers to one of the core teachings of the Buddha. in this sense that it's causality. There's a cause and effect. So everything that happens to us, physically and mentally, comes from a cause, and the effects rolls around. And then, with the result, that's also a cause for the next result. So it goes on. So that when there's, it also explains this body and mind complex, explains the world, but basically, what's this kind of in a nutshell this way? Science, like somebody says, well, you Buddhists don't believe in God. Well, then, what created, who created the whole thing? The universe. Yeah. So it's like, So, but in Buddhism, we don't see it that way. That there's not necessarily a first cause. So we say, well, who created, the universe? Must be a God. Otherwise, who else would create it? And from a Buddhist perspective, we're like, well, who created God then? No, you can't say that. But from the Buddhist perspective, it's come close to the Big Bang and the big the universe just explode out of nowhere, and it will disappear when the time is right. And it's just a cycle that happens over and over again. So initially, and why are we here? We're here because of our greed. We're here because of of craving. Every one of us in this room come back into this earth, come back to this body because we want to be back here. We want to enjoy the five sense pleasure. We want to be back with our loved ones. We want to be back in this human realm, usually born with the families that we kind of live with. So we're here because we want to be, because we crave. And when the craving fades away, and then you don't come back. That's from a Buddhist perspective, right? And like I said, so in terms of being here, because if you when you die, the body, obviously dies, but the mind, the mental energy goes on because it wants to go on. It's not finished yet. It's only through letting go. When you're fully enlightened, you have no more craving, no more wanting left. Then the energy gets dispersed. You don't come back. Otherwise, you have this energy that wants to exist, wants to experience things. And you'll come back over and over again until you start to train the mind to relinquish all these things. And dependent origination explains a lot of that. With the body, there is craving. With craving, there's a mental aspect of it. And we have the mind, the body will manifest. Yeah. But basically, it's all about the causality of there's cause and effect. And so much of Buddhism is not such about belief, but it's about causality, understanding cause and effect of how things work. Yeah. So that's kind of a dependent origination in a nutshell. But like I said, there are lots of books that you can Google and that can come up. But with anything, it's the theoretical construct of Buddhism. But in terms of kind of the forest tradition, it's just, you don't need to understand the complete dependent origination to free yourself from the suffering in your life. Yeah. Ajahn Chah always encourage people, know what suffering is in yourself, in your life, in the present, and know how to go beyond that. Everything else is interesting, but not so necessary. Yeah. So keep that in mind. Keep it simple, keep it real. Apply the teaching into your life. Where is it that you're experiencing stress and worries and anxiety? And what tools can you use to ease that, to minimize it? How do you incline the mind towards wholesome states, away from unwholesome states? Everything else will also become clear in its time. You don't need to understand everything at that moment. Any questions or comments? Okay, we'll bow together. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Vasavaka Sangho Sanghang Namami.